I think I'm well on record as saying that this was a bad bill that was passed out of the House. It did not go far enough. We have one chance at this. We will never see more attention drawn to the fact that America is overspending and overspending by a lot of money. I want to go over with you some of the, I just want to pull up for you the amounts over the years, over the last, let's say 20 years, that the United States of America has overspent. I have the U.S. budget deficit right here on my handy-dandy handheld computer. I have the U.S. budget deficit from 2000 to 2024, okay? So over the last 24 years of our country's existence, how much have we overspent? Now, what is a budget deficit? I think you would understand this, but allow me to explain it so those of you in Aniana can figure it out, okay? So if you bring in X amount of dollars and you spend more money than you bring in, you are operating at a deficit, revenue to expenditures. And that is your budgetary deficit in your household, and that would be your budgetary deficit for the United States of America. So for a long, long time now, since the 1990s, the United States of America has consistently spent more money than we bring in annually. It is fiscal irresponsibility of the highest order. And only if we see emergency declarations, only if we see things like times of war, should we ever consider overspending. You have to prioritize. Adult people who aren't solely interested in their reelection campaigns, grown people who understand math, would either spend less or charge you more as taxpayers. Be honest enough and have the intestinal fortitude, the, dare I say, cojones, to look at the American people and say, we need this budget bill. We need this defense spending. We need this entitlement plan. We need this additional Medicaid funding. We need this energy funding. We need this project. We need this infrastructure. Whatever it is. Look at the American people and say, in order to spend the amount of money that we need for this project, we're going to have to go up on your taxes. But they don't do that, boy. No, they don't. They let the piper pay the bill down the road. There are two things that are holding us back from spending responsibly in the United States of America. Well, there's more than two. There's 435 in the House, and there's 100 in the Senate. But the two primary things that cause us more anxiety when it comes to our budgetary procedures than anything. One, the elected officials don't really care that we're overspending because we never hold them to account as a result. We never do. And because they come home and they blame the other guy, even the conservatives. And I'm just getting a belly full of it, and I wonder if you are as well. And you're welcome to pipe in on this, 615-737-9986. This is not a rant against our man Donald Trump. He can only do so much. He can only call attention to it. Elon Musk obviously can only call attention to it. It takes the House and the Senate to actually pass responsible budgetary measures in order to get anything done. And I am getting sick to death. And I've been doing it. I'm not calling in a chip with the amount of time that I've done this, but it's been a quarter of a century now. And I've had as my pa would say, a belly full of these so-called conservatives. And you're going to hear them, and I'm going to be nice to them, and that's the way that it goes, right? You'll hear from Mark Green. Well, he doesn't come on the show anymore for some reason, but whatever. You'll hear from Andy Ogles. You'll hear from Tim Burchett. You'll hear from Scott Desjardins. You'll hear from David Kustoff. You might hear from Chuck Fleischman if we ever get him on the show. You'll hear from all these folks. John Rose. And they all say the same thing. You know, Matt, boy, I wanted to cut. I wanted to spend conservatively. If it were up to me, we'd balance that budget. But, sadly, there's just not enough of me up there. And it's not my fault. Don't blame me. I'm one of the good guys. And sadly, people believe it. And they reelect them. And so they overspend, and they overspend, and they overspend, and they overspend, and they overspend. And the chickens never come home to roost for these people because of point number two. They're long gone. They go up there, they work 3 days a week, they make their cash, they get rich in Washington, D.C. doing this. rich. And it makes me want to puke how rich they get while they charge our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. I mean, they essentially destroy the future of this country while getting rich. And it's not just their salaries. Oh, no, far from it. I'm mad. Don't get me started. I'm mad as hell.
Being laughed at? What is it?
I was so apparently I was on a particularly I was on a toot.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a little bit of a rant, and I look out of the corner of my eye, and the general manager was laughing at me.
In fact, that's what she said. She said, "It sounds like Brother Murphy's on a toot."
I am on a toot. My goodness gracious. If we ran this company the way that the United States of America runs there, I mean, it's just ridiculous. and yet they do it. And sadly, I have discovered, and I'm telling y'all, I'm going to stick by this because my blood pressure gets way too high on this.
Yes, sir.
If we can't see a path forward, if we can't see the end of this tunnel when it comes to budget deficits and overspending, I am not foolish enough to believe that we have to get out of this in a year or can get out of it in a year. I understand that. I'm reasonable. I don't believe that we could get out of this in 2 years. But if you can't tell me how we balance our budget by the end of the Trump term, by 2028, what are we doing? What the hell are we doing? What that indicates to me, because we have a majority Republican in the House, and last I checked, 53 Republicans in the Senate. And I expect Democrats to be Democrats, just like I expect sharks to be sharks and alligators to be alligators. But these smiling conservatives who come on my radio show and go on Fox News and go on these other conservative outlets, and they smile and they talk about how hard they're trying to balance that budget. And boy, oh boy, if we just had this or that or the other thing. And you understand, it's always an excuse with these people. It's always an excuse with these people. And at some point, I got to get busy living or get busy dying. Why do I expend emotional energy talking about it if the American people don't care about it? And we don't, apparently. Because if we did, we'd be taking pitchforks and torches and taking to the streets and saying something about it. But what I think we want is to live high on the hog until the party's over. I genuinely believe that. I think that even people who like to complain about it, even people that, like me, see what's going to happen, they're just like, let's just burn this mother down, boys. Let's just have a party. Let's just overspend. You get everything. Everybody gets free money. Free money for everybody. Let's overspend until this thing just burns to the ground. Because that's what's going to happen sooner or later, unless we stop it. If you want to know what Elon Musk is saying, that's exactly what Elon Musk is saying. Meanwhile, these people that tell you that they have your interest in mind, they work 3 days a week. And they're telling us that it might be just a little bit too hard to get anything done by July 4th. And you know, really, when you're talking about getting something done by July 4th, you got to get it done the week before because, they're not working that week. And, they got to take a few weeks off during the summer. And then, of course, there's August recess. And before you know it, they got to do some campaigning back home, raise money, get on the chicken dinner circuit. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of them. And more of my attention and more of my frustration and more of my ire is directed at the people that claim that they know better and they want to do better. because you don't seem to want to do better. If you did, you know what the president ought to do? If I were advising President Trump, I would advise him to have a primetime national address to the American people and explain to the American people what I'm telling you now. Elon Musk is right. This is a disgusting piece of overspent pork. And if the Senate doesn't do something with it, and it doesn't seem like they're going to, it's going to be a continuation of policies that got us $37 trillion in debt. You know, it reminds me, and people ask me, why do you get so mad about this, Matt? Why do you get so mad about it? There's an old story. The American essayist and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson was friends with Henry David Thoreau. And, you know, author of such great works as Civil Disobedience and the like. And Henry David Thoreau was protesting an environmental issue. And I want to say this had to do with Walden Pond, but I might be mistaken. And as the story goes, and some say it never happened, and some say it did, but it's a good story. As the story goes, Henry David Thoreau could not bail himself out of jail. And he called didn't call, but he communicated with his friend Emerson and asked Emerson to come help him out of jail. And when Emerson got to jail, after Thoreau had protested this issue that he was very passionate about, Emerson looked at him and said, well, Henry David, why in the world are you in there? And Thoreau looked at him and said, the better question is, why are you out there? I don't understand why we don't do more about this. And I'm just going to stop talking about it.